Good day, Kijuan. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm swell, thank you. So I'm super pumped to have you on here. You reached out, told me that you just have an incredible story, but I don't do too much of an intro. I like it if the person can intro themselves. So why don't you tell people about who you are?
Yes, so my name is, of course, Kijuan Amey. I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina, and spent 10 years in the United States Air Force before I had to be ultimately medically discharged due to a motorcycle accident that, did a lot of damage, such as, losing my eyesight. I also suffered from a traumatic brain injury, PTSD, and spinal cord medical infusion. But these are just a couple of things that I mentioned, other than everything I mentioned, because that's a long list. Um, and that was back in May of 2017, so May 5th, 2017, and here I am 8 years later as a keynote speaker, usually on the motivational and inspiration side, but I do speak to different things as well. Business, because I am business minded. I'm an entrepreneur with my own business now and Amey Motivation, as well as doing real estate. But I also was a business owner before I had my accident. So I do speak on business, but I'm also a resilience coach and a trusted mentor. So, and I also have my own book, and it's titled Don't Focus on Why Me, From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle.
Oh, that's a beautiful sentiment. And I really, really love the terminology of resiliency coach. I
Yeah.
wish that that was just way more commonly understood and appreciated, that that's what like a therapist, or it should be just resilience coaching, right? Because that's what a lot of us need. So I love this. There's so much that we can unpack here. I think what I would like to start with is to get a bit more of your background, pre-accident, to know who you were, kind of how you're developing. As you said, you're into the Air Force. So it's like, it takes this special individual to even want to get into military. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and what inspired you to get into the military.
Yeah, I grew up what I call as an outdoor child. And the
Nice.
reason I even preface it is because, the children nowadays, they like tablets and staying indoors.
Yeah, it's a
And
dangerous thing. It's a dangerous
it
thing.
really is. It really is. But, that's kind of the society we're in, with the
Hmm.
AI and all the technology that we're going to, man. It's one of those things, it's almost inevitable. But
Hmm.
you do want them to continue to have that outdoor experience because, hey, who knows what'll happen, in life. So what I'm getting at is that's who I was. I was the kid that was the opposite. I was outdoor side first and then technology. Now they're
Right.
technology first and then they think about outdoors.
Right. Yeah. It's
you
it's
know.
it's incredible. One of the craziest stats that I heard recently, when it has to do with like social relationships, the fact that more of the new generation is not drinking, they're not going to bars, they're not doing any of that stuff. So like, oh, okay, less substance abuse. So it's like, because they're not having social relationships, they're not going out, they're contacting people online,
Yep.
or just not having relationships at all. And it's like, ooh, that's scary. But
Yeah.
I have heard a little bit of this. Everything, goes in waves to some, degree when it comes to what's cool, what's fashionable, right? And I've heard of more people resisting a little bit of this. And so I'm excited to see what does happen in the next 10 to 20, because we are going to become more intertwined with AI and tech. Like, it's just like, as you mentioned, like, can people wake up to the importance of get out there, move, be in
Yeah.
person with people? So please continue your story, though. I just thought that was a great side tangent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just want to hit a quick piggyback off that, and this is what I've come to understand because I don't drink as well anymore, to be honest. If I drink, it's because I had some steak and I'm
Yeah,
having a glass of wine with
for
it.
sure. Yeah.
That's it. It's not to be social. I don't need to drink in order to be social. Listen. I am a party all by myself.
Hmm.
And you can ask anybody, dude, if I hear some music that I really like, I'm gone. I am, hey, dance mania, okay?
Yeah. I love that. That's
So
awesome.
I don't need it, and I can still have a good time. And that's what it really boils down to. Can you still have a great time without it?
Right.
Because I never needed that.
Yeah.
But adding it actually was kind of it actually turned me down.
Right.
well, but anyway, I'll get back to my story.
Yeah.
uh Outdoor child, grew up playing sports. I've been playing sports since I was 5. I didn't start off with the, I guess you could say, common more common sports that most people started out with. I started out with bowling.
Oh,
That
okay.
was the sport I started out with. At the age of 5, all of my siblings started out doing bowling, and I laughed because my sister was like, "I don't want nothing to do with this." And she'll do it now, but she still really isn't into it like we
Mhm,
were. We were bowling every weekend, going to different cities, states, all this stuff. That we were that into it to do it. But
wow.
anywho, that was the first sport. The next sport was basketball. I didn't like the organized level of it, so I just stuck with pickup games. That
Mhm,
was my type of thing, and could play. I could play. It's just that I wasn't into the organized thing. And
mhm.
then track and football were my two things.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
I was kind of forced into track. Why do you say that? Well, because my football coach told me to.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great side skill for any
it,
sport, right?
it is, and it made great sense. He made it make sense. Now, there's one thing in telling somebody to do something, but then there's another thing in telling somebody to do something and then also adding why.
Very fair.
So that's what he did. He told us, "Hey guys, I want y'all to run track after the season's over because it'll keep you in shape for next year."
Hmm. Yeah,
Bam. I was like, oh, that makes sense, coach. They don't
totally.
have to get back in shape.
Yeah.
And so those are the two things I stuck with from middle school all the way up into high school. And then I left. Well, I guess you could say I still did it when I went to the military because I was still running around the track for the military.
Yeah.
and
So,
and also, I kept playing football and basketball in the Air Force. I played flag football
nice.
on the base, and then I also played semi-professional when I got out of, or shall I say, off of active duty, because I was
Okay.
still in the military, but I was just on the reserve side now. And
Okay.
so now let's talk about the military,
Yeah.
because I honestly didn't want to go to the military at first. That wasn't my first choice. My
Okay.
first choice was actually going from school to school.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do. I want to go to high school to college.
Yeah.
Further my education, I wanted to be either a computer or a software engineer.
Okay.
That was my mindset. And I'm here in, like I say, North Carolina. And the two best schools for engineering were, for in-state tuition, so I can lower that cost, would be NC State, which is North Carolina State University, or North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University, which we shorten for NCA&T.
Okay.
That's a long line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those were the two schools that I wanted to go to. Due to admission hiccups, I didn't go.
Okay.
And yes, true were admission hiccups because I literally was looking at the paper where they said I was accepted, and I called the number on the paper to find out where I needed to go for freshman orientation, only for them to tell me they didn't know me.
What?
We have no, like, they had nothing in their database with me on it.
That's
And
weird.
I'm like, well, I didn't mail this letter to myself. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that was one of those days, and I still remember that thing like it was yesterday, man. Because after I did my best, because my name is uniquely spelled, so I spelled it for her and everything. She's like, "No, I don't have anything." I'm like, "Okay, no worries." I mean, don't get me wrong, feelings were hurt,
Yeah.
okay, because I wanted to go to school. I did darn good in high school just to be told no from a college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that hurt me.
It
I,
would.
I wasn't one of those athletes that was like, well, I'm gonna get by the skin of my teeth and my athleticism. That wasn't me. I wanted
No.
to have the total package.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
and when I got told no, man, it hurt, but I didn't let it hurt for long.
That's
that
great.
was when I that was when I made my pivot and went to the military. Now it wasn't like, oh yeah, I was like just a rebel. Forget everything. I'm going to the military. No, I got plenty of military family, so that I was well prepared before I even went to talk to a recruiter.
Okay.
I wasn't
Yeah.
going in and getting sold the okey doke. you
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have 6 Navy family members, one Army. I never met him. He was my great uncle. One Marine, one who was Navy, went up and is now Coast Guard, and then you have me, who went into the Air Force, and my youngest brother is currently serving in the Air Force
Wow,
overseas
that's
right
a
now.
lot of military in the family.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you couldn't okie doke me. It was just now figuring out which branch I was going with, and two
Okay.
were already eliminated.
Okay.
And I'm sure you can guess which one. No, I'm joking. The Army and the Marines. I eliminated those because I already. My thought process was I want to do something that's challenging to the
More
brain, not
mentally,
just
yeah.
the body, not
Yeah.
just the body, because it's going to be physically tasking anyway. It's all the
Hmm.
military. Everybody has to run,
Yes.
so it's always tasking to the body. I just wanted to do something more challenging to my brain.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
And so I chose initially I was going to do the Navy. Like I told you, we have six family. Well, it ended up being six because my sister joined. She made six,
Wow.
and then I went to talk to the Navy recruiter, and he taught me how to join in the Navy.
Okay.
Well, how did he do that? I'll tell you how. Because he didn't answer none of my questions. That's an easy way to turn me off. It's
Yeah.
not answering what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And so I treated it like a relationship. If you're not gonna, tell me what I want to hear and be real with me, I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
Let's cut it off right now before we even get started.
Yeah. Just not a good system right off the bat.
Not even. Hey, you can. Hey, Navy. I'm telling y'all right now. Y'all better go find Brooks because he's the one who didn't allow me to join. And I honestly, like to be completely honest, didn't want to deal with the water.
Right.
It's not that I was afraid. I can swim all day, but I didn't want to be on that water. I don't want to
Hmm.
get off the water. They're out. Sometimes they're out there 6 years to a year on the water, man. I mean,
Yeah.
6 months. Excuse me, 6 months to a year on the water. I don't want that.
Yeah. Got to have a lot of sea legs for that.
Listen, they get off,
Yeah.
and that's what helps, porting and going into different areas. My sister, she says she has some great times in Greece and places like that, which I've never seen Greece. She said Greece is her favorite, so, but I just didn't want to be looking at all that blue for that long. You
Right.
know what I mean? And I saw the blue skies
Yeah.
because I did join the Air Force.
Yeah. That makes
I
sense.
walked right across the hall, man. Didn't even leave the recruiter's office. I walked right across the hall, or shall I say the recruiting building, because
Building.
they were
Yeah.
all in the
Okay.
same building. And I went straight across the hall, man, to talk to the to the Air Force recruiter. Said I should have came here. They were the first one. I should have just stopped there when I thought about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have information on them yet.
Right.
I had information on the Navy
Okay.
because that's what everybody kept telling me about.
Right.
So that's why I went there first. And then I went into what ended up being my future. And that was the Air Force, where I ended up becoming an in-flight refueling specialist.
Okay.
What does that mean? Well, that means I was literally refueling airplanes in midair.
Wow.
Dude, you're talking about a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
I had fun. In the beginning, I was a nervous wreck.
For sure.
But after you do it, time after time after time, if you're good at it, because they're not just going to let you do it if you're terrible, because
For
that
sure.
can cost them money, of course, and potentially lives.
Nice. Yeah.
It's very, very dangerous. I'll put it this way: in our books, the technical orders is what they call them. The very first page, the warning says, flying planes in close proximity is inherently dangerous. I said, you think?
You have to put that warning on the label.
Hey, that's what you call covering your own butt, man.
Yeah. Yeah. In case you didn't know, the coffee's hot.
Exactly. So that they won't get sued like McDonald's. Here we go. But my thing is, man, when I saw that job, I was just like, what is that? And the guy showed me, the recruiter showed me. I said, come on. Okay, promotional videos are cool, but I want to know what my job is.
Yeah.
what my job is gonna be. Not the promotional video for the Air Force. I don't need to see that. He was like, no, no, seriously, man, this is gonna be your job. And I'm like, wait, what? I said, dude, tell me more.
Yeah.
Now he went over this long spiel, okay, about the job, right? And the last thing he mentions, oh, by the way, they have a $90,000 reenlistment bonus. I said, you could have ended this whole conversation a long time ago by starting with that.
Just kick it off with that compliment. That's a great kickoff right there.
Listen, I was an 18-year-old. All I wanted was money. You should have
Yeah.
started with that.
Easily.
You know what I mean? And so anyway, I chose the job, man. I was qualified for it, well qualified, because I also became an instructor, and I was able to teach it, man. And I really miss it. It was an amazing job, to say the least.
Well, it would be so incredible. I mean, I have a 30-minute flight experience of flying a plane once for 30 minutes. And I'll never forget it because, I mean, I've done boxing. That's probably one of the most intense things I've done. Yeah. And that's a very intense thing. Mm-hmm. But I still remember the moment that they let you kind of help take off the plane. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. When you know you're actually flying, you're gliding on the wind, and it's an incredible feeling. I did it for 30 minutes, not even. Yeah. And so just the skill it takes, the intensity, and to make a career out of it is just incredible. I know a handful of people who've gone through flying school, and like you have to practice the nose dives, all these different things. You have to handle the turbulence, and then to make a job out of it, like you say, for the military is incredible. I'm really fascinated by how many people in your family tree are in the military, and just it sounds like you had an upbringing of some really ambitious people, some very well-disciplined, and like, people who take everything very serious. Would you say that's been a big structure within your home culture?
I would say yes. So my mom, and she's not the, I guess you said the military member, but her oldest brother was, was, and that's where he met his wife. And then their firstborn, he went to the Navy. He's the one that went from Navy to Coast Guard. And the reason he did that is because he got out of the Navy to go pursue a professional career in basketball overseas. Cool. Because one of the coaches, I think from Spain, saw him playing basketball at a gym, and he was like, "Hey, man, I want you to come try out." He was like, "Well, I can't because I'm in the Navy." So that was why he got out, and he played on the team for I think a year, and then the coach, saw some other guy and had a better option, and that's how that stuff works when it's professional ball.
For sure.
And he's like, "Well, I don't know what I do now." And Dad was like, "Yes, you do. Find your way back to the military."
Yeah.
And sure enough, they didn't take all his rank away from him. The Coast Guard actually, was like, "Well, you just come over here. It's not that much different. You'll still be on a boat. It'll just be a lot smaller."
Yeah, just a little bit simpler.
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing great, man. Him and his family are doing great. And then, my stepdad, when he came along, I think we were like, well, I might have been like maybe 8 or 9, because I know my mom got married when I was like 10.
Okay.
So he was Navy.
Okay.
And so he would tell me. Yeah. So he would be at the house telling us the stories. And I say us, I mean me and my older brother. But my older brother was stuck on football and basketball. He's 6'3", and at the time weighed about 260.
Wow.
So you know what I mean. So well, I take that back. When he was in high school, he weighed about 225, 230. But of course, gained that weight when he got to high or college, because when you get to college, you're on a eating program.
Yeah. Yeah.
They make you bulk up, and then that weight training. Oh shucks.
Yeah.
He shot up like that, man.
Goes hard. Trimmer bulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did have the discipline. I did have just the sure. Well, I know I have military back family, so why don't I just ask them? Like, that's all I did.
Right.
And when one plan went left, I went right. Yeah. That's all that happened, and so that's how that went down.
That's great. Like you just adjusted. So it was clearly, like you mentioned, you were already an athlete, you're doing track, doing football, and you're like, hey, but I'm not just going to be that one trick pony. I also
Yeah.
am always going to do good in school. I'm going to do everything I
Hmm.
can to apply myself. It's like, hey, for some reason, the school system actually failed you, but it's like, all right, I'm going to adapt. This is an opportunity for me. These are the skills I have literally from one office to the next. And
Yeah.
you're just always adapting. So, this brings us to I just love hearing that background because I think it really will, probably play into how we establish through what you have to go through with your challenges. Let's talk about, the dramatic thing that you had to go through that one day in May.
Absolutely, man. So May 5th, 2017, like I told you guys, I wrote a book and it's about the accident, the beginning stages of it, but it was a motorcycle accident. So I'm an entrepreneur now, but I was also one then. I had just started my business the beginning of that year, January 3rd of 2017. So my business was literally only 5 months in, and it was short lived. It was called Kiwi Enterprise. I did website design and management, social media marketing, and photography for small businesses. And I was actually doing some work that day for a small business, which was actually my church. So I was a webmaster for my church, and I wanted to update the pictures, like the exterior pictures, because we had got a lot of things done from the picture that was on the website to what we had done at the time. I was like, "Woo, we need to update this picture." It was one of those,
Yeah.
And so I, went and did that, but so I had to work that night for the Air Force. Well, I'm sorry, that weekend for the Air Force. That was a Friday. And so I had to work that night for the Air Force. Now remember, this is May 5th. Some may classify this as Cinco de Mayo. You know what happens on Cinco de Mayo. There's gonna be a party somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, I go back to I wasn't a huge drinker, but I knew those guys on the base are gonna be, hey man, we're going out. Come on, you should go with us. Come on. I'm like, one of those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you were kind of forced.
Right.
You get invited, but if you don't go, they start talking about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Social pressure for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The peer pressure was real,
Yeah.
and so I was like, well, I'm gonna go get my bike. I got it out of the garage because it was a really beautiful day in the spring and in May. And like I said, I live here in North Carolina, and spring weather is one of two things. It's either very beautiful, like this day was, wind blowing and everything, clouds in the sky to cover the sun, stuff like that. Or two, it's raining.
Mm.
It's raining. And so it's either one or two in the spring. And so because we have all this greenery around here, it has to, liven it up with the rain. And so I jump on the bike since like I told you, I had to go to work that night or that weekend. I seen my lady that day. I took her to lunch in my car, and I came home. I was planning on taking a nap, but my brain was wired for whatever reason. Like there was no way I was going to sleep unless I took some sleep medication or something. There was no way I was going to sleep. So I said, how can I be productive in this time? That's me all day long. How can I be
Right.
productive? I said, you know what? I need to go take these pictures.
Right.
And my church was like maybe 10 minutes away from my apartment. So I grabbed all my stuff was in the garage. So I went and jumped on the bike, took off, man, down the road, and got to my church, took the pictures. I said, this day is way too nice for me to just ride 10 minutes and then put this bike right back in the garage. My bike looked at me and said, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to ride.
Right. And so we took off, man, down the road to there's this lake here in North Carolina called Jordan Lake. And I used to go there all the time, man, and just sit on this dock there and relax. It's like a meditation type period. You get near some water, I'm telling you, whatever your element, some people have different elements that they prefer,
Totally.
whether it's fire, being out in nature. I'm water.
Yeah.
Mine
Yeah.
is a water thing because my sign requires me to be a fire. So I need to cool off every now and then.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
You know
sense.
what I mean? So I go sit by water. It's peaceful and calming for me. And sit out there for a little while. Next thing I know, I need to head home. Like I told you, got to go to work. Hey,
Hmm.
we got time. And me being military, time is of the essence. You
Yeah.
know, they don't play about that. So I jump on the bike and I'm gone right back down the road towards my apartment. I'm on this back highway here in North Carolina. We got these back country highways that are, you know, just two lanes. You got your the lane that I'm in and the lane coming past me. And so this is Highway 751 here in North Carolina, man. And you got nothing but trees, ditches, you know, stuff like that. You know, you got the driveways, intersections. That's it.
Hmm.
There's not much back there, and so it's great riding, a great riding street. That's what it is.
Hmm.
But what happens is I get to this intersection where you know I'm going through it. I'm not turning at it. I'm actually supposed to continue on through this intersection, and again, I'm on a highway. This back little freeway, whatever you want to call it, is 55 miles an hour.
Okay.
It's not like, you know, 35 where
Yeah.
things can be avoided. Even then, that's still a pretty good speed, but
Yeah.
55 is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
We're moving,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And so this car, and it's only two lanes. There are not multiple lanes here. So this silver Honda Accord pulls out in front of me. Why? I don't know. I still don't know to the day. I never asked, never got the information. All I could think is you had to be distracted, you know, in some fashion because, and I say this because on the police report, two cars that were behind him, both of the cars that were behind him said they saw me coming, so they don't know why he didn't.
Yeah.
It was on the police report.
Yeah. He just didn't pay attention. So was he coming to turn at that intersection or just getting
No,
into
he
your
was
lane?
sitting at the light and pulled out in front of me.
Oh,
So
okay.
making a right on red, basically.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Turn
Uh-huh.
right on red. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you say, just not paying attention enough.
Not even. So, because again, this is an intersection. There's not much to see back here.
Hmm.
What could you possibly that? And that's why I say it had to be a distraction because what else could you be seeing?
Right. And,
You
and
know,
and you probably have a motorcycle that has like a bit of a muffler. Most motorcycles aren't quiet.
well, if you don't change out the exhaust, it's very quiet.
Okay.
Now my bike, I had a full exhaust, so it wasn't as loud as it could be, you
Okay.
know, but it wasn't quiet either.
Hmm.
You know, and the other thing is I didn't have it in a low gear. If I would have had it in like maybe third,
Hmm.
because I had six gears on the bike. If I had it in like maybe third or so, you would have heard that bike coming.
Yeah. A lot louder, higher RPMs.
Yeah, but I had it in sixth because to me, I ride with jeans every day, everywhere I
Yeah.
go. I ride with jeans. I don't like being hot. So
Nice.
when you have that motor with the high RPM, it creates a lot of heat.
For sure it would.
It's right there in your between your legs. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's hard on
And
the
so,
engine too.
well, those no, those motors can take a beating. I had a
Okay.
Kawasaki that thing could take a beating. Like seriously,
Fair
those
enough.
motors were built to run high.
Hmm.
And especially motorcycles in general. I heard this guy coming down the highway the other day, and this is just a minor sidetrack to hear how loud he was. Basically, I heard him coming from behind us.
Okay.
We were on the highway, and this was a big highway, not no small one, and it was other cars there too. So
Yeah.
I was like, "There's a motorcycle behind us," and they were like, "What?" They couldn't see it, but I dang sure heard it.
I could hear it. Yeah.
And that's because when he came past us, you were like you did one of those numbers because it was that loud.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
You
way
know, so
more.
there are those bikes with the little, we call them short pipes.
Okay.
That's what makes them loud when they have the little itty bitty short pipes. Find them at like I don't know, I got probably like an AutoZone or something like that.
Yeah.
But the little short pipes, and mine was fully up the tail of my bike. So
Okay.
it literally came to the flush of the tail of my bike. His probably was out the side of his bike,
Right. Right.
off
To
the
me,
side of it. Yeah, so that's the difference in how you can get that loud sound like that.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the guy pulls out in front of you,
Yeah,
and
and
you're going around 55, right?
I'm doing 55.
Yeah.
I am, and all this is based from the police report because literally I don't remember any of it.
Wow. Yeah. I can't imagine if it was a really horrific accident, a memory is going to go.
Yeah, your brain goes into this protective mode when you have traumatic, like serious traumatic uh things that happen to you, occurrences. That's the word I'm looking for. Serious traumatic occurrences that happen to you. Your brain goes into a protective mode because you could I would hate to relive that every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This could be a dream that I would relive every day. And I don't know if you ever heard of that movie Nightmare on Elm Street,
Right.
but with Freddy Krueger, you wouldn't want to go to sleep at night because
Totally.
you're going to keep living that same dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thankful for it, actually, that I don't remember that part. I wish I didn't have to have the problem,
Yeah.
but if I had to have this problem, I'm thankful I don't remember.
Yeah. I
And
never
so,
never considered that it was a protective mechanism, but it makes
it
sense
is.
when you think of like whether it's physical or emotional trauma, especially emotional trauma.
Yeah, that too.
I have heard that it's what repressing memories is actually about, so the person doesn't have to relive the horrific experience. So that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I do. I'd get life flighted. I had to be life flighted to the hospital, which was UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Um, I think honestly, I'm so thankful that there were witnesses because there's no telling if this guy
Mm-hmm.
would have stuck around. Because again, this is a back road. I'm in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually heard so many times how bikers, not, and I'm not talking about people riding bicycles. I'm talking about motorcyclists that get hit, knocked into a ditch, and just left there.
Right.
They get
Wow.
left there for dead, man.
My goodness.
It happens so often,
That's brutal.
and so I'm just thankful that there were people there
Yeah.
who witnessed it, and so anyway, life flighted to UNC Hospital where I spent the next 2 months in the hospital. That first month, I remember nothing because I was in a medically induced coma while they were doing countless surgeries on me. Literally from the top of my head, all the way down to my right foot. They had to put a screw in my right foot.
Wow.
So metal detectors see me coming.
Yeah. They sense he's there. Yeah.
Dude, I listen. Now I got two metal plates in my head. I got 2 rods and 12 screws in my back to repair my spinal cord. I broke my femur, so they replaced that with a metal rod. That's the largest bone in your body. I broke my left shin. So they replaced that with a rod, and from knee all the way to ankle. I told you about the screw, and I told you about the screw in my right foot.
Yeah.
Metal everywhere.
Yeah. Just trying to keep you in one piece here.
Dude, I missed the potato head. Hello. So yeah.
That's incredible. So you go through this traumatic thing, like and you said you're in a coma, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how long did they have to keep you in the coma after that crazy accident?
So I woke up June the 6th. So from May 5th to June the 6th
A
is when
month.
I came out of the coma.
Wow.
And I think from what I'm hearing, I was on a slow drip that kept me under anesthesia for a while. The first half of it, I wasn't waking up. I
Right.
wasn't waking up. I was in a real coma at that point. That was the real coma. And then I was kept in a medically induced coma.
Yeah.
So literally having to do surgeries from top to bottom. front to back, like
Mhm.
they were just flipping me all every which way, man, to do
Just
surgery.
totally. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So a whole month out,
Hmm.
um, that you were just, like you say, medically induced coma, which I have heard of because, it's so they can help do the repair, not put you through pain throughout all that.
Hmm.
So, um, tell us what it was like to come out of that coma.
Ooh, goes back to that Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I At first it was peaceful.
Okay.
Most people don't think of that. That it was actually very peaceful. I honestly thought I was waking up in my bedroom.
Yeah, I guess. Right.
So your brain, wakes up first, and then you're like, oh, I guess I'll stretch and open my eyes, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But before I did that, I heard people talking, and I'm like, hold the heck up, who's in my room? Because I lived alone.
Yeah.
I was a bachelor. I lived alone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did have a lady, but living arrangements, I was a bachelor.
Right.
I didn't have anybody living with me. Um, but when when I heard people talking, I said,
Hmm.
my military mind was about to kick in. Do I need to reach for the pistol that's beside my bed?
Right.
No joke. That's what I'm getting ready to reach for. I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to pull I forget what that guy's called. Dang, it was a great video game I used to play back in the day. But he used to jump to the ground and then it was
Always
so
grab
cool,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think it was Max Payne, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Max Payne. I
Yeah,
remember
dude,
that
that was
one.
such a
Yeah.
great game, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was getting ready to drop to the ground, man, right beside my dresser because, and I had everything set up for a reason.
Yeah.
Everything was set up that way to either be able to have a barricade, something to block me, it to take the bullets instead of me, stuff like that. Oh man, my house is set up. My apartment was set up. I wish you run in there if you want to. You're not making it back out.
Yeah. You're ready to go.
Yes, sir. So, anywho, that's what I'm thinking. Do I need to drop and take cover? Load up. Um, and so anyway, I listened to the voices and I was like, no, I know them. I said, okay, I know I'm my girlfriend, which is an ex now. I said, I know my girlfriend would be in here, but what the heck is my mom doing here?
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, one of those moments. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna see what they're talking about. Cause like I said, they were talking. Let me find out what they're talking about. Well, the conversation goes into a motorcycle accident. But again, I don't know what the heck happened. Cause I've been in a coma
Hmm.
and had no idea that I've been in an accident, first and foremost. So I'm like, oh, duh, who been in a motorcycle accident? And I'm just eavesdropping my tail off. When I tell you I'm a good investigator, but they are good at not giving clues. I mean,
Yeah.
not one hint of who it was, dude. Not one.
Right.
To the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm fed up. I'm waking up now. I'm gonna let them know that I'm awake. And so I go to open my eyes, only not to be able to see anything.
Oh.
So, some people might think, oh, maybe, he lost his eyesight gradually. No, I woke up without eyesight.
Mm.
So I did one of those hard blinks, to try to clear my eyesight up.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, blink, blink, blink. And nothing, still. What I see right now is the same thing I saw that day. Nothing.
Nothing.
And now it's time to panic because I can't see.
Hmm.
And so I go to speak, and I'm like, well, that's after. Okay, so now I go to speak after I try to open my eyes and be like, hey, what are y'all doing? Hey, can somebody tell me why I can't see anything? Who turned the lights out? Whatever.
Hmm.
and I go to speak only to hear, I couldn't talk either because my jaw had been broken and they wired it shut.
Ah, I see.
Remember what I said about Nightmare on Elm Street?
No kidding.
Yeah, this was a movie, brother.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
terrible.
like, dude. And so now the real panic sets in. I can't see, I can't talk. I didn't realize it yet, but I couldn't smell and I still can't. But that's due to the reconstructive surgery they had to do to my face to insert those metal plates.
I see.
And so those two things, the not seeing it and not being able to talk, dude, oh yeah, it's panic mode.
Hmm.
Now they hear me now, so they come to my bedside. They're like, "What is it? What is it?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What is it?"
Yeah, I can't describe much right now. Yes or no questions only.
No, it's more of those. You see me. What do you
Yeah,
mean? What is it?
yeah.
You got to know something about my condition and why I'm
Okay.
like this. And so I'm doing my best to try to like murmur the words with sound to make it clear. It's hard. It is not easy at all. And they did their best to try to understand me, but it was to a point where it was like the questions I was asking, the sentence was so long. You can't understand. No short stuff like you can understand it. Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
You know
that's
what I
where I
mean?
was getting out of that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you start going to these really long drawn out,
Well, and that's where it's like normally you expect people to ask you yes or no questions. You know, they
exactly.
try to communicate with you, say like two hums for no, one hum for yes. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
And so see what happened was I started asking the questions. They weren't asking them. I was like,
mhm,
I want to know what happened and what happened right now. Tell me what's
mhm.
going on. And so they gave me since she couldn't understand me, she gave me a notepad and a pencil.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you've ever given somebody a side eye, but I looked at my mom like this. I said, really? Really? You want me to write something? And she was like, just do your best, and try not to write over top of what you wrote. And I was like, all right. So I did. And it worked. Don't get me wrong, it worked. But at the beginning, just thinking about it, I was like, I can't see anything.
Right. How am I supposed to know what I'm writing down?
So, these are real things that happen real time.
Yeah.
And I wrote what I was trying to convey
Hmm.
in my murmurs. And that was, what is this motorcycle accident dream y'all keep talking about? And man, when she read that thing and responded by saying, "Oh, that's not a dream. That's what happened to you." When I tell you, like, just flashing back to all of this stuff, it felt like a movie that I was watching, but I was the starring cast.
But you're actually in it.
Yes, I was the star role in this movie.
Hmm.
That's what it felt like.
Surreal.
Too surreal.
Too surreal.
And you know, I used to do acting. This ain't the one. This ain't the movie I want to be in. You know what I mean?
Didn't want this role.
I didn't. Hey, somebody called Denzel or Will Smith. They can play this one.
Yeah, someone else can take this role. I'll take the side character.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's how I felt. And so once I heard her say that, it took me back because I was like, well, what the heck do I do now? I didn't make any more communication that day, and probably not until the next day or so, because I was trying to figure it out. Why can't I remember this?
Right.
I don't remember that. What are you talking about? How did I get in an accident? I don't even remember it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did not like was when somebody told me about something that I don't remember, because I'm like, now you're lying.
Feels
Which is
fake.
what I felt. Yeah, I'm like, that's how I felt. There's no way I got in a motorcycle accident. Listen, I'm very, very safe. You cannot tell me I got no accident. I'm a safe rider.
Right.
Which I was, by the way. And so once I, got back into reality and got done with asking the questions because I'm a faith believer. So once I finished asking or questioning, shall I say, God,
Mm-hmm.
and why he did this or allowed this to happen, And he gave me the answer. Trust me.
Yeah.
uh, I finally started back communicating to get the real answers that I needed. Like I've already told you what happened to me. You know, the accident, how it happened, who did it, where it occurred, all that stuff. She gave me these answers. You know, what happened? Where was she? You know, all of the things. She told me all of the backstory. And that's what my book is about too. It gives you the insight on the backstory from other people's perspectives.
Right.
And how they told it to me, and then I tell it to you in the book, basically.
That's great.
And yeah, and you know, it's so incredible the things that I had to endure, and I still do. You know, I still endure things today, but then back in 2017, oh my goodness, dude, my whole life. So I'll tell you. I'll give you an analogy to try to help you, wrap your mind around this. This is how I felt. So say you have a money jar, which is a mason jar, just a small one, not too big mason jar, and it's full of coins. Just coins, change everywhere in it, all the way to the top. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn it upside down and keep everything inside with your hand.
Right.
Switch at simultaneous.
Yeah.
And you better not drop one penny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want you to drop one red cent, is what they say here in the States. And so that was what it felt like. Everything got flipped upside down.
Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't know what I was going to do. I'll give you a funny one, though, when I was in the hospital. A funny one was, I was like, Ma, I got to go to work. How am I supposed to work? I'm in the hospital. They're going to consider me AWOL.
Yeah.
She was like, this is exactly how she said it now. I'm not paraphrasing. This is verbatim. Boy, they know where you're at.
They're aware. They're very aware.
Listen, I was like, wait, what? She was like, they've been up here numerous times to see you. You just didn't know they were here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Kind of makes sense that the military would have an idea where you're at within a month.
Absolutely.
You didn't really disappear necessarily. You're in the same bed for a while.
No, I'm not. We're not hiding you from them.
Yeah. I like that was your instinct, though. It's like, hey, they're going to think of Maywall. It's like, well,
dude, that's how you're trained to think.
For sure.
You're trained that from boot camp to think that way.
That makes sense.
Because you have to learn all this stuff in boot camp. You had to learn what AWOL was. You had to learn all of these different things. They're teaching you that in boot camp. So my mindset was like, whoa, gotta go back. Well, at least that tells you one thing. My mind was working.
Yeah, your mind was there and you're still wanting to be a disciplined soldier, which I think is great. So how was tell us more about the transition. Like, I mean, you're now where you're at. And so how to go from that dark day, I mean, whatever you're willing to share with us, I think this is an incredible transformation.
I tell you what, the transition, one word sums it up. Long. Long. So what do I mean by that? I had to do so much physical therapy, man. Like, and I wasn't working. So this is like every day.
Yeah.
I'm doing therapy. Whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapy, I'm doing some kind of therapy. Whether it's on my own therapy, because they're telling you to do it. If you don't do this on your own, it's not going to help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can come in here every other day or every 2 days, but if you are not doing this as well, it's going to make your, timeline take that much longer.
Right.
And so I was like, well, shoot, somebody better help me. Because when I first got injured, moving my legs was not easy.
Right.
Yeah. When you have a spinal cord injury as well as both legs broken.
Oh, my God.
It's not easy to move your lower body. Like, it's not easy at all. It was hard enough to move my upper.
Yeah.
because of the twisting. Like my spine, all of the muscles around my spine were like, what is that?
Hmm.
Like, what's a muscle? You better use those arms. Like
Yeah.
literally, you better use your arms.
Yeah.
I had no core anymore.
Yeah.
It was gone because all I've been doing is laying around. They've been moving me for a month.
Right. You actually atrophy so much. And if you had that spinal cord injury, you literally will like have some of it cut right off. You have to reestablish that. And the only way for you to reestablish a neural injury is to activate it, right? You
Yes,
have to turn it on in order for it to reform.
yes. And you start, and so when I had my accident, I fluctuated between 185 to 190 pounds because, like I told you, I was playing football. So some days I would be heavier than other days. And when I had my accident, just thinking about that, the 185, 190 pounds, that's not that big. I mean, it might sound like it, but we're talking muscle here. We're not talking about just being fat and out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
I was a muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
guy.
take off a shirt, let's go to the beach muscle.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. I walked around like that. This is not, I got to get in shape for it. No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so when I had this accident, I lost it. You start losing muscle legitimately 2 weeks.
Right.
Don't do nothing or shall I say, don't work out for 2 weeks. You start losing it automatic. Just imagine laying there for 2 weeks. I wasn't walking. I wasn't leaning up. I was sitting up. None of that. I'm not moving a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that much quicker. You lose it that much faster. So I'm literally skin and bones when I wake up.
How much did they? How much you weigh? I was just curious how much you weighed.
I don't know. I don't know.
They didn't weigh it.
I'm sure they did, but yeah. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, because I never, it was never told to me.
Right.
And so I'm sure once they took me to like certain tables, because they do have tables that have scales on them, like you could just move the what they call the bed mattress over to the table and it'll weigh you. Okay. But I don't think I was awake for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so again, very long very long process, man. The reason I just shook my head like that because I had a flashback to when I had to do an x-ray and I could not stay still to save my life because it was very uncomfortable because I was skin and bones and the table was so cold. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally shaking and they're like, can you be still? Yeah, I will. As soon as you heat this table up. And I really got that upset at them one time. I'm like, what don't you get about me being skin and bones and this table being cold? It's cold in this room. Why don't you think this freaking metal table is cold? Yeah. Put a pad on here or something.
Yeah, give a guy a cloth.
So anyway, that's why I shook my head like that. But now fast forwarding, going through my physical therapy, had to learn how to walk all over again. I don't recommend that to anybody because the way I put it is, think about when you first learn how to walk as a child. You're maybe 20 pounds, maybe. Add about 100 or 120 pounds to that.
Yeah.
That's not easy to move.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And then we're going to add on top of that you broke things and that your regular bones are no longer there.
Yeah.
You know, you're not dealing with foreign objects inside of your body. And my right foot was stuck in a flexed position. So if my foot is like this, my foot was stuck like that.
It was actually forced down.
So, in an up position. So I was walking on the ball of my foot.
I see.
Yeah, I was walking on the ball of my right foot. My heel would not touch the floor. Hear me clearly. Would not touch the floor.
Wow.
I can touch it now. But that's through all of the physical therapy that I went through.
Yeah.
And so, you know, learning how to do all this stuff. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what. I told you I was an athlete. When I went into that physical therapy room, everybody knew I was in there. Here go Amy, he's in here. I was like, yep, and y'all better crank the music up because I'm finna get working. Hey, I want to bring the energy.
Brought the energy. That's awesome.
I wanted to bring the energy, man. I was even when I switched from inpatient, being at the hospital to now being outpatient when I got discharged. When I went to this other physical therapy facility, the guy who was my physical therapist, me and him used to be in there singing. I'm telling you, I brought the energy everywhere.
That's incredible.
And that's how I got through this thing, man. I had to bring some kind of energy, positivity, whatever, light to the situation.
What inspired you to do that?
That's my natural life. Like that's just
great.
me. Before my accident, dude, I'm in the life of the party. No joke.
Well, like you said, you don't need alcohol to have fun. You just like to be a fun person.
I love having fun.
That's great.
I love. I'm a comedian. I do improv comedy. I love that stuff.
That's awesome.
Listen, I will crack jokes on you like that. So if you can't take a joke, don't come around me. I'm just being honest. Because me being in my comfort zone is me being able to tell jokes.
For sure.
That's my comfort. And it allows me to relax.
Yeah.
And be me. So yeah, man, I just do things to enjoy. Like I had to bring light back to my life.
Mm-hmm.
In a darkened world.
Yeah.
Which is my eyesight, I had to bring light somewhere. And that was in laughter. That was in dancing. That was in being, music. As you can see behind me, I have instruments.
Yeah, I seen them.
Yeah, I've been playing drums since I was 7.
That's awesome.
I'm 33 now. I just started learning how to play the piano or the keyboard here in the pandemic. So October of 2020 is when I started learning. I was bored.
Yeah.
Literally got bored and wanted to pick something else up.
New skill.
Yeah, and something that was a lot quieter.
Yes, than drums. That is definitely like you can put some headphones on or something.
Yeah, a whole lot quieter, and people say, well, just get an electronic set. It's not the same, trust me.
No, yeah, you want that. You want the. I did a little drums when I was younger. You want the bounce. You want to feel the rhythm, the vibration, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's vibration that goes along with that kid, and I can feel it.
Yeah,
and so even on the cymbals, they bounce a certain way.
Yeah,
and so some people just don't understand.
Yeah, for sure. But this is incredible. Like, I mean, you went from this incredibly dark day. And very, like you say, long, terrible process. But then very quickly you transitioned your story to say, I brought the energy. I was singing. I was in there. I was like, oh, Kijuan's here. We're going after it. And it's just, that is so important for people to hear, right? Because
Absolutely.
There's so many people could be victimized by their circumstances. There's so many people that are currently victimized by their circumstance. And it's like, those people can see. Those people don't have rods in them, and yet for some reason they are more crippled than you are, and yet you are literally crippled by an accident. So what kind of advice do you have for people who feel like victims to a difficult circumstance, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional? How do you think, what's your advice for people to not be victimized, to actually be empowered, that was similar to yourself?
When I don't know if you noticed, but when you started saying victimized, I started smiling. It's not because, I'm happy that people are victimized. It's because I know what helped me, because I was adopting that mindset at first. But that's the key word, the mind. That's what gets you out of that victimized mentality. You have to change your mindset. So when I mentioned earlier in the podcast, when I was questioning God and why he allowed this to happen, that was me taking that victimized mentality. Why me? Why me? Why me? Well, my book it's titled "Don't Focus on Why Me."
Right.
I hope people read it because there's a chapter in there that talks about the why not me mindset. And it's a golly. When that thing hit me, because God gave me that one. That was when remember I told you he gave me an answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the answer. Well, why not you?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, whoa, time out. Don't talk to me like that. I'm not ready for this. I'm in a vulnerable situation. You
Yeah.
need to lighten your tone, sir. But listen, when he gave me the answer of why not you, and I understood, he said, you can still play the drums. I still allow you to do that. I still allow you to be able to think because they didn't think you would. They told me, well, first off, they told my family, call everybody because this is probably it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't think I would be here. They thought I was not going to make it to see another day. And then after they said that, they said, if he does, you'll have to do everything for him. He'll be a vegetable. Hear me clearly when I'm saying this, because some people like, well, that's a great story he's telling. I like the way he's fabricating this. I'm not telling you anything that I have not heard.
Right.
I don't fabricate stories because, first off, it's not making my life no better, and it dang sure ain't gonna make the listener's life no better because this is real. This is what they told me. I don't like it when you tell somebody stuff like that, yet alone my family.
Right.
And I think that's why I made it, because they were saying these negative things and doubting my outcome.
Right.
So when I was able to come back and think for myself and was able to take that victimized mentality and turn it into a positive and think about the why not me aspect and still see the victorious side of it and the prosperous side of it, I was winning.
Mm-hmm. I
And I
love
still
that.
use that to today, man.
It's so empowering to realize it's just that phrasing. It's why not you? Like, it's not just why me. It's like, why not you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still remember this from when I was in school, and I just even this one quote always weighed on me. It wasn't, "Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." It's a Bruce Lee quote, and
Yeah.
it changed the way I look at life because I was looking for the easier path. I was looking for here for not a long time, but a good time. Literally the song. Like that was my mentality. And I was a lazy kid. And then you actually had more sadness. You had less fulfillment because you're just filling it with video games and food and all that stuff. And then when I started to realize that mentality is like prepare for life because it's going to be shit in some way. And you'll be lucky if it's not really shitty because it's really shitty for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And then no matter how shitty it becomes for you, if you get stuck in the why me, it's just another level of empowerment and more misery. And
That's right.
the story that we tell ourselves is so vital. And there's a classic, I think, somewhat of a psychological parable of the two brothers. One brother, they both have an alcoholic father. One brother ends up very successful. The other brother ends up an alcoholic. And you ask them both, how did you end up the way you are? They both say, how could I be anything different? My brother or my father was an alcoholic. So one of them create a victim mindset of it. The other create an empowerment story from it.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
just like you mentioned, this idea that, you know, you have this conversation with God, this inner spiritual awakening of what you can do. What gratitude do you have now? You can still think for yourself. You can still dance. You can still play drums. Like you still have things that others don't. And I'm willing to bet that in the medical industry, a lot of the times they're just trying to even hedge their bets on, we don't know where he's going to end up. So they tell you, hey, you might have a vegetable here. You might have someone who cannot do much. And it takes a special kind of person like yourself to fight through that and to persevere through that. And so I understand why you make such an excellent resiliency coach, because you can appreciate the darkest day, literally, because that's all you see. So I think that's so incredible that you have this story to share, that you've been
Thank you.
through the worst of it. And to this day, this is the other thing too, is it's not like you get to come out the other side. You have scars to bear for the rest of your life. And so you will always appreciate anything in between. And it seems that there's a bit of an irony in life when it comes to gratitude. Those who have it the worst so often have the best gratitude.
Hmm.
And when those who
Yeah,
have it the best have the worst gratitude because
I'm telling you.
just take things for granted.
Hmm.
So I love your story. I really do want to have you on again in the future. It's already been an hour. I want to dive more into some mental resilience stuff with you, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Why don't you tell people where they can find more about your story and just more information from you?
Yeah, no problem. Excuse me, if you would like to follow me on social media, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, all under the same social media handle name, which is my first and last, Kijuan Amey, and that's KIJUANAMEY. And if you would like to, go to my website, you can go there by going AMEY, which is Amy Motivation.com. And you can see my book on there, which is Don't Focus on Why Me From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. That's also on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, as well as Apple Books, because I did also do audio versions of the book as well. For my listeners out there who love to listen to books. And then, if you would like to book me for speaking engagements, conferences, conventions, galas, whatever you might want me to be a part of, feel free to click on that book me link on my page. And I also have some videos on there, one of me speaking. And then, of course, I think I have some of me playing the drums as well. So you can, do that for your listening pleasures.
I love that. That's so great. Thank you so much, Kiwan. One last question.
Yeah.
And I'll mention too, I'm definitely going to listen to your book. I'm a big Audible book guy, so I like that.
Mhm.
Um, this is the Strong Ambition podcast, so I got to know, what's your most recent ambition? What are you really excited coming down the pipeline?
Whoa, man, that's an interesting one there. I do have a speaker competition coming up here in
Oh,
October, so that'll be fun. I'm excited for it, stoked for it. It's going to be in Rochester, New York. So I'm ready to go do that. It's gonna two days, 2 day event. So I'm going to be competing against other speakers with my gift that I've been given in speaking, and so it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I know that much. Whether
yeah.
I win or not, I'm excited to go compete.
That's so cool. I didn't even know that there was like speaking competition. So I'm just curious of the format. Do you
Yeah.
come prepared with a speech and then they judge you based on that speech, or how does it work?
Well, that plus they also, give you like it's almost like, you remember how in school you had a prompt to write to.
Hmm.
So you get some, everybody gets like get not the same prompt, but different prompts to speak to. And then you go based off of that. And you could, just have it where you do your own topic, and deliver your speech. And you get judged. There's a panel that judges you based off of different criteria. Your speaking, your presence, your stage presence, your engaging with the audience, your pauses. Not just stuff like
Yeah.
that. Trying to hurry up and get and your timing. Do you stay within timing? Say if you only got 5 minutes, say if you only got 15, do you stay within your timing? Or
Hmm.
are you always over? Or, are you way too short? So
Hmm.
if you got 15 minutes and you only do five, they're like,
Right. Right.
so yeah, stuff like that.
That's really cool. Have you ever done a competition before?
Actually, not it wasn't like a full blown competition. It was something we did back in when the pandemic first kind of was happening. Is I think it was Toastmasters I did this for, and it was just kind of like a round robin type thing. It
Cool.
wasn't so much of a competition because they don't look at it like that. But this
Right.
one is legit a competition with first, second, and third place
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
prizes.
Well, that's super exciting. I love that. I'm even going to look into this myself one day. I love public speaking myself as well, which I think is such a cool skill. And like yourself,
Mhm.
you're clearly a speaker. I notice your pauses. I notice you're very intentful with everything, and it's definitely a gift you have. And
Thank
there's also just a huge gift to be willing to be present in front of people and speaking.
you.
It's
Exactly.
people will actually rate it higher on the scale compared to like death for their biggest fears. Like they
Yeah.
actually, if
Yeah.
you write down like what's your biggest fear, they'll commonly rate public speaking higher, which to me it was just like mind blowing because I enjoy it. Now I understand why people don't like it, but to have it so fearful, and so that shows you it's such a great skill to have because
Uh-huh,
very
uh-huh.
few people are willing to do it, let alone have the skill to actually perform it. So I'm excited for you, man. I really,
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear how that goes. So hopefully
Thanks.
update your social media. I'll keep an eye on how that goes. And again, I for sure want to dive more details into this story. You have a lot there. I think you got a lot that you could be teaching our audience about mental resilience. So we're going to touch base again in a year or so that I can get more of this because I don't think there is a greater skill. Like, I mean, you look at any high level athlete, you look at any high level performer, no matter who they are, what they're doing, their natural talent could only be significant with mental resiliency.
You're right.
And like even the people who you say, oh, he was gifted. He's like, yeah, he's gifted,
Mhm.
but he still had to show up to be the athlete every day that people ask him.
Exactly.
Whether he's like, someone's in business, they still had to want to pursue something. There needs
Hmm.
to be the resiliency of their environment in some way.
Yep.
And it's like beneath the surface because you'll see all the physical attributes, you'll see all the physical results, but there's nothing more important than get up and go do it. And the mind is the driver behind everything else. So
Hmm.
I'm really excited to have you on again, future. And again, I just really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, no, again, I appreciate it and I'm looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Kiwan. I really love this story. As you can imagine, it's just incredible. Right from the get go, you just appreciate that he had to have come from a pretty unique family culture. So many people in the military that it's going to change the kind of person that you are. The idea that he didn't just want to be an athlete, he also wanted to be an athlete in academic. And then when he tries to go in academia, he gets denied. He gets denied over some sort of weird mishap. They couldn't even find him in the system. And notice that he didn't sit there and complain. He didn't sit there and just blame the college. He didn't blame the system. He didn't stay mad at it. He just adapted, goes into the military because he knew that there was an option there. And he goes into the military and literally from just having one conversation, which didn't go well because he couldn't get answers, he just found the solution in the very next room. He was literally just looking for solutions. That's it, not staying stuck on problems. And that's why I really wanted to tell that part of the story because I had an idea of where things were going. And it takes a different kind of person and growing up in a different kind of environment to be able to handle the real challenge that was going to come his way. And certainly enough, that faithful day, all of this stuff, the training through military and all the difficulties I've been through is what prepared him for that. Just to have someone too distracted on the road change his life forever. And I do think it's really interesting. I'll say just anecdotally, most, if not all, motorcycle accidents I've heard of, when they end up in these terrible situations, it's not the motorcyclist that's actually at fault. It's the other drivers that are the more dangerous things. So it's super valuable to know if you're a motorcyclist or you know anyone. It's the rest of us are the challenges on the road for them because they're harder to see, but we're also just more complacent because of how much safer a car can be and feel inherently safer. But it's just super incredible that he had to go through such a crazy trauma. I couldn't imagine that. You don't know the actual accident. One day, one afternoon, you're just doing some chores, doing some work, and literally to have his car or his motorcycle call upon him. And just to think of that, just those little sliding door moments where it's like, hey, I was going to go home, but I decided to stay out there. And that changed his fate forever. And he just wakes up one day, can't see, can't talk, and for him to have to adapt from that crazy, like he said, a nightmare state. But what I think is incredible, and this is why I do hope to have him on again soon, because I'm certain there was transitions, not just the couple days that he ended up quiet. I'm willing to bet that was a big moment for him, but I'm willing to bet that there was a lot more along the way. I'm willing to bet that he had to have days where he's doing his OT and he's frustrated. I'm willing to bet that there was days where it was painful, and we didn't get to really dive into this. And this is why I encourage you, as I'm going to also be looking into his book, because there's way more beyond those battles. And to hear his idea of why not me, I think that's so empowering. It's literally the opposite notion everyone else would take. When you end up with a terrible circumstance, instead of saying, why me? Why do I have to be the victim here? It's like, why not you? You can handle it. He takes that as this conversation he had with God, that God trusted he would be able to handle it. And whether you believe in, God or not, there's something inside him that believed he could handle it. And that's the way all of us should take our challenges. What is the challenge you face right now in your life? Maybe it's fitness. Maybe it's fat loss. Maybe it's trying to get stronger and be an athlete, be a good father, good mother, whatever it is. And you're so challenged by it. You don't know how to do it. And part of you wants to say, why me? Why is this my circumstance? Maybe there could be another part of you saying, why not you? I believe that you can handle it. And you still have all these other things you get to do along the way. As he mentioned, he can still play music. He can still do all these things, and he's empowered by it. And for him to say that when he was going to OT, hey, you know what? We're cranking the music. We're doing this. We're rocking this. He didn't just drag through it. He managed it in a positive sense with energy and life. That's how we should all try to take on our battles. And it's not easily done. I believe in that whole idea, as I mentioned, the stories we tell ourselves, and I do believe that there's something within us. I think it can be trained. I think right now, if you're someone who's used to being in a victim mindset, it can be trained out of you. It can be trained out of anyone. Anything can be trained fundamentally. You always got to remember that. Some people have it a little bit more innately within them. And some people have hardly any of it to be able to have that resiliency and fight away. But we're all going to need it. So practice that idea. Why not me? And just ask yourself, why not me? Why can't I handle this? And remind yourself the things to be grateful for that you do have, and remind you why you can handle it. That is a very empowering state that pulls you out of the victim mindset, that pulls you into, I am strong because of this. And just think about how incredible his story is. It's created a career for him, given him a book to write. And he's made it who he is in the most empowering way possible. And just think about your own story that you're writing right now. That's fundamentally what you're always doing with your challenges, with your lifestyle, with everything that's going on in your life that's making it difficult. This is what makes the story fucking interesting, right? If you were to pick up a book and nothing interesting ever happened, your life didn't have any difficulty, you're not even excited to read that book, and you know it. The most interesting thing in any movie you watch is like, oh, how are they going to get over this challenge? That's the whole idea of the storytelling. So how are you going to get over your challenge? How are you going to be empowered by it? And you get to look back at it with more pride and admiration in yourself than anything else that you'll ever do. It's when things don't work out. That's when we're tested. When things end up chaotic, that's when life really hits. And so I'm so grateful that Kijuan reached out so he could share his story. Again, I'm going to have him on again in the future. A resiliency coach. I think that's just an amazing name. I think that's what we all need in our life. So please check out his stuff. I think he's got a ton of great info. I'm going to be listening to his book as well. And I appreciate you as a listener listening to this. If you know anyone who could really enjoy this kind of a conversation, be inspired by it, please share it with them, because that's the the mission is just to share and empower more people in their life, just like yourself. So I'm always trying to help you grow. So thank you for listening. I appreciate you spending your hours whenever you can listening to these stories, because I'm just here to help you find and chase your own ambition, because life is not about the pursuit of happiness, but the happiness within your pursuit. And I'll catch you next time.